Okay, hello everyone. So this is the first lab for Survey of Chem 1151. I had a bunch of technical difficulties this morning. For those of you there in my lecture, you saw that I've lost my iPad and also had some monitor problems. But anyway, I'm back at it. The first lab is a little tricky. So what we typically do is I'll go through all the technical stuff, how you're going to operate online, and then Jamie or another student will perform the lab on video, and then you'll act like you're there, right? You'll watch the video, pretend like you're in the lab doing the experiment. Now, for this week, we're just doing measurements, so it's not quite the same, all right? So let me kind of look at what we got going on in Cougar View, explain how this will all work, and then get you started on lab one. Okay? So you should have at this point purchased the lab manual. Okay, so the lab manual, I have it somewhere. Is this it? Let's see. If that's what I'm looking at, that's not what I'm looking at. Hold on just a second. Let me find it. This one, that one. Okay, so this is the lab manual. Make sure y'all can see what I'm seeing. The first one is chemistry and measurements. So this is what your lab manual looks like. You'll go through and read this before doing the pre-lab. So let me back up just a little bit. You have a initial section that's kind of like an introduction. Okay, so here it talks about prefixes, measuring length, the metric system, measuring volume, measuring mass, significant figures. All right, here's where it starts the actual experimental procedures. So everything up until this point, all of this was your initial reading, your introduction to the lab. So you want to read this before you get started. All right. And then the procedure is what we're going to be doing in the lab. Okay, so this experimental procedures is what we're going to be doing in the lab. You will omit, so omit means to leave off. You will leave off number 5, the other students' values. How does your value line up with length? How does your value of the line length compare to those of other students? Questions 1, what digits in the measurements for the line by other students are the same as yours and which are different? So those 3 you will not do. I have an X on them here. Let me make sure y'all can see that. Yes. So an X on it there. And then you also mark out B, the graph, right, for the 3 different volumes. You'll only have one volume to measure. And then C, you'll mark that out, all of the measuring mass section. Okay, so that's what you'll need to fill out. Let me show you where you'll turn that in at. Oh wait, not that. Hold on just a second. Internet, transition, bang. Okay, so under assessments and assignments, you'll see here safety worksheet, but you'll also have turn that off. Done with that. Lab 1. Lab 1, chemistry and measurements. So I meant to already do this. New category. Lab reports. Every score will be out of 10. Bang, bang, bang. And all of this will be due. I'll actually put the due date for this at next week. Okay, so next week you're going to have 2 labs due. You're welcome to go ahead and complete this week. But the only reason I say that is because we haven't covered all the measurements yet in lecture. So I'm not going to hold it to you to have this completed this week. All right. If you want to wait until I cover the measurement section in lecture, if you're in my lecture and you're waiting on that, then you can wait on that until you do this. Now, Jamie's going to cover it in pre-lab discussion, so I'm going to include that. But like I said, if you want to wait till I do this in lecture, that's fine. I'm putting the due date as February 14th, but know that Lab 2 will also be due on February 14th. Okay? So you kind of can get backed up. The first lab is really not that bad, though. Okay? As you'll see when you get ready to go through it, it's not that much. But if you're uncomfortable doing it because you haven't dealt with measurements in this way before, you can wait until we cover this in lecture. Now, I'm also including videos for prefix conversions, and as I said, Jamie will cover some of this in the pre-lab. So it's up to you. If you're comfortable with it, go ahead and knock it out. I am going to be a little more lenient on the first few labs just because you don't know what I expect of you. So if you want to go ahead and give it a shot, go ahead and do it. If you want to wait till I give the lecture next Monday, then that's fine as well. Just know that you will have both labs will be due at the end of next week, February 14th. Okay? The density lab is what's coming next. So both the density and measurements are covered in chapter 2 in the text. But we also don't like to fall behind, so we usually go ahead and do the physical measurements lab before we cover it in lecture. It's really not that bad, okay? So try to give it a shot if you want to. If you get stuck and you feel like you're not doing something right, you can wait until you see the other lecture on measurements. So I got to remember to do all this in the other labs. But here's where you'll come to submit your assignment. You'll click on here, and then it'll have submission. See, these are just showing me y'all submissions. You should have a submit upload file tab here where you can drag your image. So when you fill out your lab report, you can take a picture and upload it as a JPEG. I would prefer that you turn it into a PDF. Okay? However is best for you to do that is up to you. If you want to write it, take a picture, then upload the picture, convert it into a PDF. That's one way of doing it. Another option is to just type it up on another document and then upload that document. Either way that you find to get it done, just submit it into the assignments tab under Lab 1 Chemistry and Measurements submissions. Okay? Let me go back. Assignments. Click on Lab 1, submit under there, and then I'll be able to go through and grade your assignments. Okay, so this is where you submit your assignment. It's under Assessments, Assignments. Click on Lab 1, blah, blah, blah. All right, what is next? Let's talk about this lab and what you're going to do. So, as I said, I have the prefix conversion here. This burette reading, make sure y'all can still see. Oh my gosh. This burette reading, let me back up so y'all can see where I got this. I'm under content now. Just to back up a little more. Assessments, assignments, here's Lab 1. That's where you'll submit that JPEG or PDF. Now, going back to Lab 1, under content, you'll see that I've included a prefix conversion link, a PowerPoint presentation of the pre-lab discussion, and then a burette reading, which you'll use to answer the question about volume. Let me see, where was that? Volume. B2, 3, and 4, right? The initial volume of water is read under initial reading, the final reading, and then you subtract the initial from the final to get the volume displaced. Okay, but that's going to be Jamie's part in discussing that, and my part in the lecture next week. Just to let you know, if you do go ahead, this is that image. This is what that image is for determining the volume of measuring volume of a solid by displacement. Okay, so let me go back to Cougar View and show you. All right, now for the pre-lab discussion, what you're going to do is you're going to click on this Experiment 1 Chemistry and Measurement Pre-Lab Discussion. Do it through Cougar View, and that's because you might not be able to get this video to play if you download it to your computer. Okay, if you open it through Cougar View, you shouldn't have any problems. And
hey
you'll see there's Jamie.
Welcome to our first pre-lab discussion
I like
for
to make it
Chem
full
1151.
page.
Your first experiment is going to be focusing on chemistry and measurement.
Make sure y'all can see that.
And so,
transition,
at least for this video, you'll get a feel of how these are going to go each week. On the pre-lab slide, of course, we tell you what the laboratory goals are, what are the main learning objectives. So in this case, we have identify metric units in measurement, such as the gram, the meter, the centimeter, and the millimeter. Obtain a correct measurement using
and so then you have her going through these slides down here on the bottom.
And
I hope
a graduated cylinder.
So this is how you want to do
and
it
then
on yours.
Through obtaining correct measurements, we're going to talk about something called significant figures as well.
And then she'll go through and talk about all the prefixes, why we're using it this way, and what you're necessarily going to do.
We are going to learn how to correctly read a meter stick. I never use inches in chemistry.
I'll stop that. Y'all take a look at that. Let me know that you can see everything there, right? All right. So, with that being said, let me look back through the lab and kind of make sure that you can do everything you need to do. Okay, the number of significant figures. Number of centimeters in a meter, number of millimeters in a meter, the width around your little fingernail. So part of this you will need a ruler of some sort, okay? So I hope everyone has something that they can use as a ruler around your house to take measurements, okay? Some people have it on the edge of a notebook, right? It'll be right on the edge, so you can use that as well. Anything you can use to kind of guesstimate. I think you can actually type in ruler online and get something like a ruler. Let me see. There. Let's see. Ruler. So I'm not actual size online ruler. The most accurate online ruler. So there's an accurate online ruler you might could use to measure the length of a piece of paper or the length of that line or the width of your fingernail, whatever you need to do. So there are options to do this online, okay? Go back to here, see what else I can talk about. Length of your shoe, length of the line, volume of water, that's fine. Now, significant figures and the estimated digit is something that we will cover in lecture, and Jamie will cover in pre-lab discussion. But just to touch on it, the estimated digit is always the last number in the sequence. Okay, the last whole number in the sequence. So 1.5, the 5 would be the estimated digit. If it were 1.500, the 5 is still the estimated digit. So that's what I meant by the last whole number. 4,500, the 5 is the last estimated digit in that. So the estimation is 500, right? Does that make any sense? 42.50, the estimation would be 0.50, all right? So the last whole number is the one that we're saying is estimated. The number of significant figures is just how many whole numbers plus zeros behind the decimal. Okay? Whole numbers plus zeros behind the decimal. So what does that mean? That means, for example, make sure y'all can still see what I'm seeing. 4.5 has two significant figures. Two whole numbers, that'd be two significant figures. Let me bring y'all to me for this. Okay. So I don't want to leave y'all completely hanging. I am going to touch on all this in lecture. Starting to get a little dark in here. Next week's lecture, I'll cover all of this in more detail. But just to kind of, if you're real close to getting this done and you just want to make sure you're doing it right, I'll cover a couple little things about significant figures and about estimated digits. Okay, I'm not real sure if Jamie covers this in the pre-lab, so I'll just kind of barely mention it here. All right, significant figures is just anything that is a whole number or a zero behind the decimal. For example, if I have 4.500, the 4 and the 5 are whole numbers, so they're automatically significant. Now, the fact that the two zeros are behind the decimal means they are significant as well. So a zero behind a decimal is a significant figure. So there are 4, and we write SF for significant figures. 4 significant figures in 4.500. Now, if it were 4,500, right, then I've only got 2 significant figures. The 2 whole numbers are the only significant figures in that number. Okay, so notice that the zeros are different depending on whether or not they're behind the zero, behind the decimal, or in front of the decimal. Okay, so now let me do one more example, 450.00. Okay, when I do, I can't see this right here, 0.00. All of the zeros are included if they're behind the decimal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I include this one as well because I have some behind the decimal also. Okay, so that's kind of like a little nuance to this that you're going to need to be familiar with. If I have 450.1, this zero is significant because I have a significant value behind it. All right, so in this case I have 2 sig figs, 4,500, right? And 450.00, I have 5 significant figures because all of the zeros are included. 5 sig figs. 450.1, I have 4 sig figs. 451 would be 3 sig figs. Okay. 2006.0 is 5 sig figs. 2006 even is 4 sig figs. And then 2000 would be 1 significant figure. This is the only significant figure. Okay? So that's just a little brief touch up on significant figures. The estimated digit, as I said, is always the last whole number. So just running through all these, 0.5 would be the estimated, 500 would be the estimated, 50 would be the estimated, 0.1 would be the estimated, the 2000 would be estimated, the 1 would be estimated, okay? 2006, the 6 would be estimated. So whatever the last whole number is in the series, that's the estimated number. Notice that the decimal doesn't really have any purpose in determining which one was estimated. 450.00 is 5 significant figures, but the last estimated digit would be the last whole number, the 5. Okay? So that is that for estimated digits and significant figures. The other is in prefix conversion. I've included a video for that on YouTube in your Cougar View links, in case you want to go ahead and get ahead of the course or whatever, get ahead of lecture, and get your lab done this week. If you want to wait till next week when I cover it in lecture, that's fine. I think Jamie also covers it in the pre-lab discussion. So that's that. Email me if you have questions about any of the technical stuff, the uploading the assignments, the PDF conversion, textbook problems, lab manual problems, stuff like that. I mean, obviously you can email me for any problems, but those are what we're focused on this week. I want to make sure everybody has the programs that they need, has the materials that they need to do the assignments, and understand how we're going to do this and how it's going to work going forward. Okay, so this week you're just trying to make sure you're up to par on everything you need to know, and that you have all your materials and stuff ready to complete the work. All right, so with that being said, I think that's it. Let me go back to Cougar View and just make sure there isn't anything else that I missed. Cougar View, Experiment 1, Lab 1. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. So like I said, I'll put the due dates will be out beside your assignment, and we'll say when they're actually due. I do accept them late, but there are late penalties, so just be careful with that. I think that's good for this week. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and knock this out. If not, you can wait till the lecture drops next week. But like I said, you will have both of the labs due at the end of next week, so you might not want to put it off. I understand the predicament that we're in. This is just kind of how the online courses have been going. It's hard for me to go ahead and teach all of these things when people are still trying to get their textbooks and lab manuals. So I try to be as accommodating as possible. For those of you who really want to get going, I'm sorry. For those of you who feel like this is going to pressure you in at the end of next week, go ahead and give it an attempt. Like I said, I'm not going to be as strict on the grading for this lab because of the situation. So go ahead and give it an attempt. Look up your prefix conversions and measurements ahead of time, just so that you may not have as many problems as you would trying to do it from scratch. Okay? So, that being said, that's it. I will see y'all next week.